Okay. So this week we learned a bit about ALCOA, workplace safety. And so I don't know if you've looked at the discussion information, but it's kind of a lot of questions. So let's get started. First step, it asked, fire Stepankic. Okay, so the question is, imagine you are Merton for your 9 a.m. meeting with us. What position would you advocate in that meeting? Now remember, we at the end of the reading, there was the memo, and it asked Lisa, was her name Lisa, the HR person, to come in because they wanted to have a meeting between Bert and Kurt about Panic. I don't know how to say his name. Anyways, because they wanted to fire him over the here, because he told another coworker to do something, and then it was just a lot of workplace safety came into issue, and the Carl Olson got hurt on the job, and everyone knew what the rules were, but nobody followed the rules. And whose fault is it? So in this case, I was just asking what your thoughts are. What do you think should happen? Should he be fired?
So I think he should get fired because he's had several warnings. That was the question, right? If we think he should be fired?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. He's had several warnings. And I mean, he's putting on risk not only his life or his safety, but other people's safety. And so two things. One, if he's disregarding safety and another death happens, man, I mean, they will be like, we should have fired him. Or if they fire him, also people will start to acknowledge, okay, it's serious, all this policies they're doing about safety. So it sounds rude, I mean, and it's hard, but if he's not listening, he's not being an example for people and lives at a risk, I will fire him because he doesn't want to change.
And Lori, do you have anything to add?
Now, did it say anywhere in there what type of warnings he's been given about making sure safety has been watched? You know, in just the memorandum, it doesn't say.
It doesn't say specifics.
Like, on Exhibit 12, on the fax they sent, it says, this is the third incident like this in the last year. And he's been warned several times. So it's same type of incident in that same year.
In that case, if he's not trying to make sure safety is adhered to, then he should be fired, and it is going to possibly cause problems with the employees, but unless they realize that, hey, we take safety seriously because we don't want anyone else hurt.
Or maybe instead of getting fired, just take him out of being supervisor and going back to another position.
That's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Actually, I agree. Safety is the number one concern, but I also believe that it's everyone's job. So my question is, what was Carl Olson doing? What, not being safe? What, I mean, I understand Stepanek's job was to make sure Carl was doing his job safely, but I also feel like job to make sure the workplace is safe, and if you're not doing your job safely, there is always that potential of getting hurt. Even though Stepanek is the supervisor, I worry what kind of role has had because of that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, could have Carl said, I need to wait until maybe this production area is down before doing this, because he's not taking his own safety into consideration either.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's what was my hang up, was I see all these incidences that he did that was wrong, but I also see Carl going into an unsafe environment and knowing that there was a congested area, you know, and pause safety issues there. So I mean, that's my hang up. So we talked of getting fired. What message do you think the rest of the group, if he did get fired?
Well, if he gets fired, the rest of the group, I feel, would say, what's the use of me trying to do my best for my supervisor that we're working well with?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And maybe put morale down?
because it could be either they get angry for him being fired, like, you know, people sometimes get angry because people they like get fired, or they could get worried and be like, okay, we should start doing this, which is why, yeah, I would consider that instead of getting fired, just start reposition him some other place.
Sam, I really like that idea. Okay, so the last question in this little section asks, would it be fair to fire considering how other supervisors treat safety issues? So in general, it seems like this company across the board, they do really well with safety, but there's still the old school mentality, just the tough people work here, and the number one concern always, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
So would to fire
Yeah, if it
just
comes
him and
yeah, when it comes to fairness, it wouldn't be fair.
Yeah.
Because he's not the only one with that attitude towards safety.
Yeah. Just like I said, Carl was there,
Mm-hmm.
and even though he's the one who got hurt, he's the one follow the safety rules either. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about the plat in general. So we're going to look at some of the data. And I'm supposed to put you in groups, enough for groups. And Spencer, I don't think can communicate with us. So
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
you.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if you got my message. So I'm just using my phone now, but I have no way to like hold up my phone, so I'm just gonna have my camera turned off, but I can hear everything.
Okay. Oh, wonderful. Okay, good.
It's okay. Your voice
So,
is off.
Okay, so we're gonna do that. There's it's in the data section. It deals with the data. So let's see here. I'm supposed to put you in groups, but I'm not going to do that. So we're just going to go together in groups because we don't have enough room. So you each have, or so we have 10 minutes. Exhibit 3 and 7 to answer the question, when safety improves, does productivity decrease? So that's our question.
Okay, let's go to exhibit 3.
Exhibit 3. Okay. Question again is, when safety improves, safety decrease. Okay. It has a couple of sub-questions. You might need to do some math. Sorry, I'm not good at math, but we can see if we do it.
But we have calculators.
I don't know if I have one at my desk, but okay. It says divide the total numbers for numbers for each period by the work total for the same period to figure out how many hours it takes to produce 1 ton of aluminum. Total hours, let's see, this is exhibit 3. Divide that by the work total, which is down at the bottom at 3.
Okay, 44.
The example of 1987, which was 7,400, 185.4 and equals 39.9 hours per ton. The smaller the number, the more productive the plant is. To calculate for each period. I'm gonna go get a, well, I think I have one on my phone. Oh, let's. Okay.
Okay, and I'm not a math person.
Okay.
The part I've always struggled with, and my boys are geniuses in doing math in their head.
Yeah, it sounds like my dad, but not me.
Yeah, I can't do
What's up with that? Okay.
But guess what? I know how to use a calculator, so I'm good.
So the trend I am seeing so far, I'm not done, but I see that the more years that it does it, that it's working, the plant is.
For what?
So, like in 1991, January through August, the productivity was 33.7%, which they say the more productive the plant is. And the productivity was 37.2, so it went up by 4%.
Mm-hmm.
So they should have smaller percentages to be more productive, right?
except for the last year. Now, I could have had it wrong, but or in August, I guess they broke it down. January to August, it was at 33%. It was 31.9%, but in August itself, it was up at 34%.
Hmm.
But that was, it wasn't a whole year.
Sure.
So if you take even January through, okay, so they have a January through August and then just July and just August. So
Correct.
I don't know how to divide to figure out just that 8-month period for the other years.
I don't think we're going to worry so much about that as of yet. Now it says, with the average safety incidents in example 7. So, let's see here. The averages are there. Okay, so it says the lower the number of safety incidents, the better. If both numbers go down, that's good. Going up, that's bad. To me, it looks like total work averages, the number continues to go down, except for in smelting, the light goes up. That, you guys see the total work averages? This is Exhibit 7. Continue to go down year after year, except for in smelting, it goes down January through August, but then in July it shoots back up, but August it goes back down.
True. Yeah, I see that.
And comparing,
Smelting because it's. Go ahead, Lori.
Oh, I was gonna say, looking at fabrication, if you look at the previous years, it was low, but then it increases.
That's right.
In their percentage there.
Oh, Spence, sound horrible.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm fine. I've been through worse.
Okay, if you say so. Okay, now it says to explain the relationship between safety and productivity. Okay. So how do they work together? How are they different? What do you guys think?
Well, if I'm not misunderstanding the facts, more work doesn't necessarily mean more hours doesn't necessarily mean better work.
Exactly.
It's like my mission president's wife always told us, don't work harder, but work smarter.
And that shows it. I mean, it's in the work. So, okay. Anyone else have anything?
I'm taking from the other lessons, would training the employees on safety maybe help the safety issues go down?
Exactly. And that's what this is all. Okay, the second group question is, look at Exhibit 5. and it asks us to figure out which injury numbers are improving, which means going down, and which are going up. Yes? You guys understand that?
Mm-hmm. So, improper position 1 is definitely going down.
If the injury numbers, are improving, which means the numbers are actually going down, decreasing, yes.
It looks like they are improving on every single one.
There are big ones like congestion. It has drastically improved.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But do you see any that are going up?
I'm trying to find one.
I see 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they go up a little bit, but it's nothing that looks like a trend, you know? Like, I'm even trying to just look between years, and there's really nothing trending going up.
Yeah,
Maybe
I see.
failure to secure went up 4 incidents. Improper position went up 3 over the but nothing's really trending upward.
Mm-hmm. Like what? Those that went up went down.
Yeah, the only one I noticed go up for the years was failure to secure. It went up 4. Did you mention that one, Spencer?
Maybe I
Okay.
missed that one.
But I think that was the only one. Everything else, just by the years, not by the January through August and July and August section, but just 87, 88, 89, and 90 go up was failure to secure. Everything else continued to go down.
Improper position. No.
That did go up too.
It was at 138, then went down to 126, went down to 119, and then jumped back up to 122.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's still lower, but it's over the year it went up 3 instances, but it's still not. That could be completely circumstantial. That doesn't necessarily mean we have a huge problem there.
Yeah.
Correct.
And then looking at the wrong
Especially
tools, it went up, but it had gone down from 28, and then down to 11, then down to 5, and then back up to a 6. But could all of these issues be because maybe new employees coming on and not getting the proper training?
Could be.
Probably.
Well, and Laura, you brought up a great aspect on wrong tools, because if you look, 1990 and 91, there's zeros across the board.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike improper position, you look past, and those numbers are skyrocketed. If you combine all three, 102, 15, and 11, it's more than 1990.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had the willpower and the time, I would throw all this into Excel and find out which ones are trending, like which ones are going faster down and which ones are decreasing less fast or decreasing slower, because then you can see what target areas you're looking at that you really need to add more, policies and procedures to and more changes to. Because I mean, some of these, like you were just talking about, like improper position went from 138 to 11, And that's a really big change. But are there some that need more attention? You know?
We're missing when we say it's 138, that's for the whole year. And this is just for 1 month in August where we got 11. And like I just mentioned, if we
Oh,
combine
true.
January through August, all 3 of those equals more than the whole year of 1990.
Sure.
102 plus 15 was 117 plus 11,
Okay, yeah.
which we're at 128 by August of 1991, which means we've already.
Oh yeah, no,
Mm-hmm. True.
true. That's half the year. So if you're on the same trend of half the year, all of those Augusts, those first 1991 numbers, the January through August, you could assume that there's twice as much throughout the rest of the year, right?
Yeah, I just divided on that improper position, I did the 138, divided it by 12. So each month there was 11.5 incidences. And if you take the January through August and do that 102 and divide it by the 8, it's 12.75. So it is increasing on there.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
definitely.
Crazy. Okay, so the second part of that question for group 2 is what type of injuries are improving compared with the type that are not improving? Does it? I don't know.
So maybe I can do a little math here. Let me look at.
Can you say that question again?
Yeah, it asks what type of injuries what categories the type of injuries that are improving compared to the types that are not. I think we just went over that section and the unsafe speed. So we definitely talked about that.
Yeah, I think I think maybe that's asking more about whether it's a condition or an action. See how they're in the two different categories. So is it something that's wrong with the environment, or is it something that's wrong with
the employees,
the employee and the training?
Okay. Sorry, guys. You hear that? That's my dog.
Don't worry about it.
And she's outside.
But I don't know. Like I said, I'd have to do a lot of math here.
Yeah, I'm quickly trying to do from 87 to 91 and dividing a few of those.
Well, I think the action has more condition. Like it says, contributing conditions and contributing actions. Oh, sorry, guys, hold on.
So let me look at the divided by 12.
Yeah. Because I even just tried pasting this into Excel, and because it's from a PDF, like it's not gonna work right.
Hey, you had the willpower to start it, though.
You're right. I mean,
Because they're smarty pants, I wouldn't even go to Excel. Never even thought. Didn't even cross my mind to try.
What's your major?
Excel. Healthcare administration.
Okay.
Yeah, once you learn Excel, you get real lazy though, because it can literally do anything. But it can take like a lot of time to set up. And so when things don't copy and paste over right, it's
You don't
just
want
really you'd have to input all of it, and that would take me our whole meeting to get all that done.
Okay, well, let's move on.
Should I
And-
quickly tell you I did a quick math one on the standard procedure deviation?
Please.
In 1987, it was 4.66 per
Okay.
month. And for the 8-month period, January through August of 91, it was 5. So
So
if they're deviating from their standard procedure, that looks like it's going up.
I mean, we checked out too, and it looks like they're slowly rising again, which means the safety issue, they need to reiterate the importance of safety and have some trainings, it sounds like.
And maybe they might need semi-annual or annual training or certifications on that safety.
Yeah, I see it's hard because there's so many employees, like that's so many people, but it's necessary.
City. Okay, let's move on to Exhibit 6. It says, look through the list of sample injuries and look through common themes and causes. And what can you learn about safety from this list?
It looks like there's a lot of medical cases that, are in bold. Like the head pot operator was a medical case, scalper operator, medical, mechanic grilling, medical. Mechanic ingot, medical. And a lot of them I can see right off glancing, there's 1, 2, 3 of them on August 10th that are all classified with that bold of medical.
Well, and not only that, those 3 are burns. Oh, or I saw burn, there's a burn.
And then many are also stepping on the wrong place.
Yeah. It seems a lot of carelessness. Fingers are getting caught, burns are happening, lacerations, walking in the wrong place, stepping the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
Things are slipping out of their hands.
One thought that I had, and I mean, it's not completely off topic, but it might be a little bit off topic, but something that the case doesn't really ever mention is that when it comes to safety and training and stuff like that, I once read a case that talked about how that all starts in the hiring process, and that you need to be making sure that you're hiring the right people that are going to follow policies and procedures, that they're not reckless, that they do follow rules. You're going to be the ones that look at safety as a very high importance. And the case just doesn't really, at least what I read, and to be fair, I skimmed it pretty fast, but never really mentions anything about their hiring process.
Well, and not only that, but since you're on the right line, because a lot of these people come from the old school where you're tough. I mean, grew up working in factories. My grandpa and my grandpa's family is from Michigan. They, started out on a farm in Kentucky, moved to Michigan, worked in the factory, then moved to Minnesota, worked at the factory. My dad worked at the factory. until I was like 14. Cool, you're tough. You're a tough person to be able to work in a factory. So why should you be trained? You're tough. You just do it, kind of a thought. I think that's what I took away with some of these employees.
Yeah. That's a fair assumption.
Okay, let's move on to step 3. Okay, well, we talked about it, so we're good. Are you surprised at any of these findings that we talked through, all 3 groups that we looked at?
Kind of, yeah. Especially
What surprised you, Sam?
in the causes of injuries. Like usually I wouldn't have guessed that some of them were because people slipped, and some of them because they, like those small incidents. Usually when I think about incidents in a workplace like this, I think about big things. Maybe not explosions, but like big things. But then when I see this, it's stuff that could happen to anyone, even those who are trying to obey, to say it like that, but get distracted for a while and boom, bad timing.
My husband works for the government, and they have where they test, and it's a lot of it's outside. And one time he was walking through a tunnel. It was muddy, walking through a tunnel, and got to the other side of the tunnel and fell. He got all muddy, but he had to do an incident report because of that. The report, and he's like, "I'm fine. I just, good thing I brought a change of clothes." But I mean, that was how serious their safety is where he works. That just slipping in the mud, that he had to fill out a report.
Yeah, and I know my mom, she used to be in the corporate offices for an assisted living company. And when she first started working there, one of the big things is that they were paying a lot higher premiums than in workers' compensation insurance because of their injuries that they had, like how many times that you are having to increase how much workers' comp you use, they'll up your premiums, right? And that's based off of your industry average. That's how they make those premiums. If you're a company that is above industry average, then they'll give you higher premiums than your competitors. But if it's below, then they'll lower your premium, kind of a thing. And you've got to document all this kind of stuff, like you said, like even if it's a fall, because if you have an employee that comes back, a month later and say, "Oh, because of that fall, I now have chronic back pain," you could be stuck with pain for that for the rest of their, life, kind of a thing. When really they were at the family barbecue and, got too intense playing capture the flag.
Frisbee.
But I mean, the company does a really good job with the industry averages. If you look at Exhibit 1, I mean, they started out just about equal, but then even as the industry averages went back higher in the late 80s and early 90s, Alcoa continued to go lower with their incident totals and serious injuries. And so, pretty dang good job when you look at it.
Spence, exactly. If you look at other companies, what they talked about the other companies that had way higher overall incidences, and how Alcoa was one of the companies that had one of the lowest compared to the other companies. Is a great I can't find my word. Anyways, it's a good thing. So
Well, any of these I just really meant to say by that giant, huge, long explanation was really just that, like, even though there's these big, like, changes, even in 91, you know, like, there could be so many different things that go into it that, you know, was the result of those, or was the reason for those, I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're dealing with such low numbers too, like if it was like they went from, you know, even if they doubled every serious injury total that they had, you know, they would still be below the industry average if they were from 1990 to 1991. So I don't know. It's really low numbers. You're kind of you're getting really nitpicky at this point, and they're doing really good. So there could be so many different things in it. Is really what I'm trying to say.
Okay. So what type of problems do you think that we discussed, or what are the easiest ones to solve?
The easiest to solve?
Do you think the ones that are expensive, or the ones that involve people's behavior, or what
I think maybe the ones that involve burning. If they had the equipment, if they use the gloves or whatever you use to not get burned, those could go down.
I would say conditions are easier than actions. Like, it's really easy to train people to say, hey, you got to make sure your floors are clean, make sure that these safety precautions are met. But when it comes to being like, hey, you got to remember to be wearing eyewear and gloves, and you got to stay this far away from everything, that's when it gets hard, is when you're trying to tell people to remember the, you know, ABCs.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to conditions, you know, it's pretty easy to say, like, oh, we got to make sure that this, you know, roadway is painted like they had talked about, or you got to make sure that there are barriers here, here, and here for protection. That stuff's easy when it's just like one-time investment, but training a culture, changing a culture, and changing behavior is what's most difficult.
That's right.
I was going to say on that, Spencer, my husband
Lori?
used to work in a factory. Well, it was Wonder Bread that he worked for. And when we first got married, they didn't have anything for ear protection. And after, I don't know how many years he had been working, that they started doing the testing on their hearing there, and then provided or had available for the employees to wear the earplugs to protect them from the loud machinery that would hurt their hearing. So if you can improve some of those conditions of, you know, where it has the noise hazard, having available to the employees at no cost the little earplugs, that helps protect their hearing, which could protect the company from being charged with not following safety procedures.
That's a really cool, like, I really like that story, because could you imagine, like, if the workers didn't want hearing protection and they just, like, everyone handed out these little earplugs, how many people would actually use them? But if your employees were like, yeah, I go home and I am, you know, always yelling at everybody because I don't know what they're saying, like, your employees are going to be like, heck yes, yeah, we got some hearing protection finally. So I think maybe if you're looking for the easiest thing to make, like, the biggest change, Like, you got to go out and interview your employees and be like, hey, when do you not feel safe at your job? And like, what do you guys need to be more safe and to stop
Mm-hmm.
people from getting hurt? Because no one wants to get hurt.
That's Spencer.
So,
Those are great ideas.
Yeah, like that takes us back to the motivation articles. People get motivated when it's born inside, not when people are telling them what to do.
Yeah.
So ultimately, what do you think the Mission Valley is up against? What's the challenges? What's the biggest challenge? Or the stuff?
That culture, the changing culture, them wanting to do it.
Yeah.
All right.
Until you can get robots to do their job, like, people are gonna get hurt. Like, that's kind of the big part about like automation in car making industry and car manufacturing, is that like, because they've got robotic arms and stuff that are lifting everything and doing all the welding and all of that, like, people aren't getting hurt as much.
And
So,
Spencer, I can take that back for a hands-on type experience with my husband. When he first started working for Wonder Bread Hostess, he actually was taking the pans of Twinkies and pounding them out onto a belt all day long. And then by the time he retired after 28 and a half years, and I don't know at which point in that 28 and a half year career that they changed it from manually dumping Twinkies to a machine dumping them.
yeah.
So, you know, when you're manually doing it, there's more potential to smash fingers or possibly get your fingers caught in a belt as you're doing it.
But now all I want to do is eat Twinkies. So
That's with pizza.
if you crush your finger at a Twinkie factory, do you get Twinkies for the rest of your life?
Well, I guess until the company goes out of business.
Yeah. Jeez.
Okay. Let's move on. Okay. What has Mission Valley done in the past safety record so much that they have few serious injuries compared to other companies?
I think it's just how much of a priority they've always made it. They invest a lot of time and money into safety, and they take it sounds like they really take every incident very seriously as well, as like not a coincidence, you know. It's like, oh, someone got hurt, what can we change, you know?
Yeah, I think like a difference is that they follow up the situation. I mean, I know using Doohickey as a comparison is so extreme, but we see in Doohickey's problem how the human resource guy says, who knows since when they haven't updated that incident number
The incident board.
But in this company, they're constantly updating, they're constantly following up what's going on, are the reports sent. They are not letting it go, but they give it the attention it needs.
Great. So will doing more of the things to help, like the follow-up, like Sam, you said, things help them move the rest of their way towards their goal? Like, they want to get to 0, right? Isn't that what we read? Their goal is to get 0 incidences, will this continue? If they continue to do this, will that help get them there?
Mm. Well, Albert Einstein said, if you want to see different results, you have to do different measures things. I don't know what the exact quote is. But I mean, these things could help because they have reduced it, but not to 0. So changes could be needed to actually see different results.
So you think that's a challenge for their future, Sam?
I think they're headed on the right way, but maybe working on the motivation for people could do a difference. The motivation for them by themselves to choose to be safe. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes. So it comes down to the people, whether or not they want to be safe and how far they're willing to go.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think can motivate workers to want to be safer? They have like a, I don't know, a party, an incentive program, some sort of whatever. If you're safe this many days, something happens. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Hunger Games now.
I think that would work if you got the employees involved in it. And I know where I work, we don't have the safety issue like a plant would, where you're producing something, but we have where we're trying to improve our quality of service that we do. So we've had a team put together of employees working with managers to come up with ideas of ways to improve that quality. And we just did a thing of competing against other teams. And at the end, the teams who had improved got to throw a pie in their manager's face.
That's crazy. But I see that at schools. You know, my youngest is in elementary school still, and they do that. You get 100% attendance, and you get like one time you get to be principal for an hour, or if you do it for a whole year, you get to, like, 1 year the principal stuff as, and they did ketchup and mustard, and 1 year it was pie throwing, 1 year was, I don't remember, it's just crazy things. But that was their incentive to do good in school. I think that, not that they could do pies for, but you know, it could be something.
So in getting the employees involved in deciding how to help improve that safety, it might, actually improve it with employees' input besides just management saying this is what we need to do.
I agree.
Excellent. Okay, let's see here. What can we learn from the incident with the forklift speed and the wedding ring? I say it like that because my husband's metal is conductive. It's conductive. So he's gone to a plastic or a silicone wedding band, which I'm fine with, But what do you think about that? Those incidences?
He'd be like, woman, if you want a finger to wear that ring on, you should take the ring off.
Exactly. I mean, really, it's a hazard. It's factory.
Oh yeah, and like I forgot. I think it's called ring avulsion. Do not Google ring avulsion and look at the images if you're squeamish. Because like it's really common. Like I'm from Idaho. Like I know a lot of farmers that don't have all their fingers, and it's usually a ring finger.
Chris, that's interesting. I had never thought about that.
gold, like especially with like gold rings and silver, like they're really hard metals. So if your fingers get trapped in something and you're even trying to pull it out, your ring will cut straight through your finger and rip it off.
Okay, 10 cents enough.
We believe you. We believe you.
It's bad. Even Jimmy Fallon, I remember it was just like last year, Jimmy Fallon was just in his kitchen and something happened and he almost lost his finger because of his ring.
Look that up.
See,
Okay.
and Spencer, when my
So-
husband worked at the bakery, he never wore his wedding ring at all
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
because
not
of working around the machinery. It was, and I don't know if they had safety on that, if you shouldn't wear, rings or working with this machinery. But thank goodness he was safety conscious enough to not wear it working around all that heavy machinery.
Oh yeah. It's bad.
Crazy. So what do you guys think about the forklift speed? Remember in the incident he was going 11 to 15 miles an hour and they said they need to limit it to 4 miles an hour. What do you remember that? And then there was lots of great things that happened because of it, but there's always someone who grumbles about it.
I thought it was amazing how they calmed down when they said that all the other departments had to do it the same way.
Well, and not only that, it ended up saving their equipment. There was less
true.
maintenance. There was less, that it made it better. Less hazard. How can you address the culture embedded in strong community and history? This is definitely one of those strong community factories.
Well, education, I think, is the solution for change. In this case, for example, the woman that didn't want to take the ring off. If we showed her all these images or videos in YouTube about how you lose your fingers, she'll probably be like, okay, I might consider taking my ring off. So the same with the other aspects of the driving. If we educate people about it and have them see, then there's a better chance of change.
Great. Okay, anybody else before we move on? Because I'm excited about this next little questionnaire. Okay. Be honest answering these questions. We're talking about following safety procedures. Do you always wear your seatbelt?
I do.
I do.
Really? Always?
Nope.
Yeah.
No. I'm horrible. I go 4 blocks and sometimes I don't.
Nope.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
be honest. In the wintertime, when I drive to church across the street, when there's snow and ice on my driveway, I don't wear a seatbelt driving across the street to church.
See, yeah. This is the question that my pediatrician asked Gus. My youngest name is Gus, and he always says, "Look," but he always says yes, or he says no, because sometimes he doesn't. I mean, we're going a couple of blocks. I don't make him me look bad because. Anyways. Oh, this is a good one. Do you avoid texting in dangerous places? Driving a car.
I
mean,
try to. I almost never text and drive. But no, I definitely catch myself because I suck at texting and driving. Like, I gotta be honest. Like, the people that say that they're good at it, I don't know if they're lying or I'm just awful at it, but like, I'm the worst. So I really try not to.
I've never texted and drive because I rarely drive, to be honest. But sometimes I text and walk, and I've realized that can be dangerous too.
Oh yeah.
Very
What's really dangerous is if someone's texting and driving and someone's texting and
and
walking.
walking. Bad
Welcome
I've
to
seen that
Rexburg.
commercial.
bad.
Okay, next question. Cross at a crosswalk. Do you guys always use the crosswalk when crossing the road? Yes, yeah,
No.
I do.
Depends. Am
I
I
would
in
say
USA or am I in Mexico?
I would say it depends on where you're at. In my neighborhood, there's no crosswalks,
Exactly.
so I don't use a crosswalk in my neighborhood. If I was downtown Ogden, I'm not going to cross the road where there is not a crosswalk because I value my life.
Okay, well, if there was a crosswalk, designated crosswalk areas are usually at the corners.
You know, I
What's
didn't know the
fun?
function of crosswalks until like 2 years ago.
Really?
Really?
Well,
Education makes
now you know.
change.
Okay. Do you? No, I don't. Okay. Or instead of a chair.
What?
Do you use a ladder instead of a chair?
No.
I try to avoid either one of them.
Okay.
I don't like
Personally,
heights. So
is
that's when you grab your tall boys and say, "Reach this for mom."
I would definitely use a chair first.
Yeah, here's an example. So over the summer, I was back home in Boise working for my mom's new job, and she is an office manager for an interior design company that's opening up a new showroom. And the showroom is 2 stories. It has like a big showroom on the front, and then it kind of like a loft. So the loft overlooks a big showroom, and there's a more product up at the loft, right? That has this guardrail. And we were working on building their display for their pillows, which are these chains hanging from the ceiling that I had to, put on. But I had to space these chains out like every 5 feet, and there's 30 something chains, so I'd have to move my ladder 30 times because I can't reach 5 feet from one, point in the ladder. And so I ended up at one point just walking across this, like, the top of the guardrail, which is like 3 inches wide, practically using the chains as vines that I was hanging off of. And on one side of me, there's probably a 30-foot drop.
Yeah.
But I didn't tell my mom, so it was fine.
As long as mom doesn't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I guess I'm not a safe person is what I'm figuring out right now.
And the last question is, Spencer, do you drive the speed limit?
Oh no.
Okay. I do the question.
I was taught that the speed limit was a suggestion, and it's really 4 miles an hour faster.
Okay. So yeah, I do that too. Cruise at 3 miles over.
Yeah.
Unless I'm going through a school zone and then I'm right on.
Oh yeah, school zones. I'm always good with that.
And Spencer, I was taught you have to keep up with traffic
Yeah.
to be safe and not weave in and out.
Yeah.
No, you try driving through Atlanta. You just keep up.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Or anywhere in Utah.
Okay.
I'll say until you get those that are in the carpool lane and think that they don't need to go as fast as the cars in the other ones. But But I've seen that in other states in defense of Utah, Spencer. And all the traveling I've done, people who do not know how to drive in the slow lane and use the other lanes for passing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Our
Oh,
PNs are very
Idahoans are
good
the
at that.
worst at that. No, I'll say that Utah might have crazy drivers, but Idaho has rude drivers. They will go 10 miles underneath the speed limit in the passing lane from Idaho Falls to Boise for 5 hours. Oh, man. And our
Spencer,
truck drivers up here are even worse.
they come down to Utah, they do the same thing.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. So,
You don't drive that much, so that probably doesn't bother you, right?
I don't drive that much.
Okay.
I should.
Okay. So, knowing all of our, what would get you to change? Spencer, what would get you to change to do the right thing?
I don't know, because I mean, I was right about to be a smart aleck and just say if the speed limits were higher, maybe I'd follow them. But if they were higher, I'd probably go 4 miles an hour faster. Yeah, I don't know. If
Better education, maybe more enforcement, like in the speed limit area. If you're, have more enforcement with the police officers. I know that's a touchy subject, but that way, I notice as I drive that if there's a police officer around, people tend to back up behind them. And sometimes it's like, at times it seems go slower than the speed limit to see who's going to actually do the speed limit to go past them.
Well, I think you got like a couple basic, forms of motivation here. Like, is it going to be fear based off of enforcement, based off of, serious injury or harm to yourself or others? Or is it going to be kind of like a shared responsibility kind of a thing? Like, oh, we're kind of all doing this together. Like, I know, like in Germany, they've got the Autobahn over there that has no speed limit. Montana didn't used to have speed limits, but like even though they don't have speed limits, there are some case studies that show that decreases accidents. Because without the speed limits, you're actually paying attention when you drive. And you have to all kind of work together as traffic moves through. And so, like, there's no room for people that aren't going fast to be on the wrong side of the road. And so they are more responsive and will move with traffic like you're supposed to. So you can skin a cat in 100 different ways,
Good analogy there.
Okay.
That's the same, right? In 100 ways to skin a cat.
I don't know that I've ever heard that. But okay.
Really?
It must be a
wow.
Western thing, Spencer, because I've heard that.
Okay.
Okay,
All
let's
right.
move on
Good
to the
thing it's not me.
let's see here. We need to brainstorm some ideas on how to change the culture and attitude about safety at Mission Valley. What are your ideas? It's a little bit about it already. Do you have any other ideas?
So have people involved in creating the solutions.
Starting with hiring. Yeah, I don't know.
Do you think because Mission Valley is super big, the Alcoa is super big, do you think getting the community and families involved would help?
Can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, because Alcoa is so big, and or at Mission Valley is super big. It's a small community. Do you think getting outside community help or families to help?
You know, maybe if the families help participate in maybe a safety fair. You know, I know around here the fire departments just had a big open house for October because it was like, you know, safety awareness of your smoke alarms and CO2 detectors. Could they come up with something for a safety type fair so that the families are involved in knowing what type of safety is required of the person that works there?
Lori, that's a great idea. My husband's work does a health wellness day, for its family day. And so they have all kinds of for families to interact with health and wellness. I think that's the same line as what you're saying, talking about, except for with safety. I think that's a good idea. Anyone else? Okay. The final wrap up. Feedback. What did you learn from talking about these cases, and would you that you would apply to the future workplace? Anything that we've learned here that you would apply in the future?
I would probably apply safety trainings, not only when you're hired, but maybe annually or doing a safety fair with the families, because sometimes those kids can do a lot to help. I know every time
Motivate.
our kids get in the car, they're like, "Grandpa, you're supposed to be buckled up."
A few days ago, my mom had an allergic reaction and her throat was closed and we didn't have anything home to help her. It was like 10 p.m. and we had to run to the hospital and actually so that she could get treated. And so I thought, why weren't we prepared at home? Why didn't we have something? So I think that applies. I mean, that church has given us our safety policy, which is the 72-hour kit and food storage, etc., etc. So what about we start with that?
Yep, safety starts at home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have to take off. I need to go take my son to work.
Sure, Laurie, thank you for being with us.
Okay.
ahead
I'll
and
look at the Google Doc again.
Thank you.
Okay.
See ya.
Broadcast really quick, and then but Lori, if you could look at the final wrap up and just there's a couple of specific questions on there that if you can send me your thoughts, that'd be great.
Okay. I certainly will. You guys have a good weekend.
You too, Laurie.
Thanks.
Take care.
Okay. Bye.
Nice to see you.